Welcome to the Get On Pointe Podcast. I'm Latique.
And I'm Alex. And I was doing some thinking today, Latique.
About what?
About how we've been in this podcast room for quite some time.
We have been.
I think it's time that we get a little refresh, maybe some new design, maybe even designed by one and only design expert and Emmy-nominated TV host, Bobby Berk, who we have as a special guest on the show today.
Hi, how are you? How's it going, ladies?
Good. Alrighty.
So we're going to be asking you just a couple questions just to get to know you. And I think the first thing we really want to know is what inspired you to get into interior design and start making a living doing so?
You know what, honestly, I kind of fell into design. I never really thought of design as something I'd be doing. Like growing up as a child on a farm, design wasn't something that people did. You know, the only exposure I had to, and you two look too young to know, but designing women with Delta Burke and Jean Smart, yeah, y'all probably too young to know that. But that was the only interior designers I had ever heard of. Or back then, they called them the sugar bakers. They were interior decorators. And so, yeah, when I was little, I would love to move my parents' furniture around, and I would always decorate my room. But again, it wasn't something that I thought of as a career. But then as I got older, I got into retail and then into home decor retail. And long story short, I ended up opening up my own furniture company and started designing for my customers that would come in. I would pick out their furniture, but I wasn't really a designer. And funny enough, it wasn't until TriPoint Vegas came a knockin' back in 2015 and said, hey, this was with Builder Magazine. They're like, we were told that you were the designer that most related to millennials. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not a designer, but yes, okay. And we would love for you to design the show homes for the International Builder Show this year, because these show homes are all about what millennials want in homes. And in my mind, I was like, I have no idea how to fully execute a home like that with building plans and electrical plans and cabinet layouts. But I'm like, sure, yeah, I can do that. So I took on the project and I quickly got on Google and YouTube and I figured out how to do things, and I put all the floor plans in Photoshop instead of CAD because I didn't know how to use CAD and I didn't own CAD. And we made it work, and they turned out to be a huge success. And then you guys came to us and was like, hey, we want you to design a show or a model in a Scala. And that was the first true model we designed for you guys, and it's been a great journey ever since. And so I literally kicked my interior design career off with TriPoint.
We love that, and we're so happy that you're also designing our podcast room. And then we just want to know, what is one lesson that your job has taught you that everyone should learn at some point in their life?
You know, one lesson I've learned that is, don't think of failures as an end to something. Think of failures as a lesson and at a beginning of something. You know, failures are the best thing that can happen to you, because failures teach you what you're really bad at, or put you on the track to find what you're really good at. So a lot of times people will fail at something and just give up, and they're like, oh, I should just give up and move on. No, use that as a lesson and try again, because I definitely failed upwards my whole life.
So you mentioned failing. So what are some of the biggest career obstacles that you've had to face, and what did you learn from them?
I mean, in the design world, the biggest obstacles I think I had to face was the technicalities of design. You know, especially working with builders, there are a lot of terms and things that I didn't know because I didn't go to design school. You know, I luckily am naturally a good designer, but I didn't have all the technical skills. So one of that was my biggest obstacle, and how I overcame that was hiring a great team, hiring people that know how to do the things that I don't know how to do and excel at that. And that's what's created a successful design company is finding the perfect team that all work together really collaboratively, and everyone has their strong points that they bring to the table.
And then knowing that design is ever changing and always evolving, what are some things that you're gravitating toward for the future?
You know, for me, people ask me trends or what I'm going for. To me, a home is all about what makes you happy. I shouldn't be the one telling you should do this in your home. You shouldn't be reading You could get ideas from magazines to find those things that you love, but you shouldn't be like, oh, well, this is on trend, so this is what I'm going to do in my home. Because one of the things that are bad about trends is trends come and go, and pretty quickly in this day and age. Back before so much social media, a trend could last for a decade or so. But now, we're on to the next thing week after week. So I would just press to find the things that make you happy, and that's what you should do with your home.
I love it. It is your happy place after all, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So something I think we both really want to know, what inspires Bobby? What steps do you take when you're designing a room or a home or a model?
One of the first things I think about is functionality. Because your home can be super pretty, but if it doesn't function well, it's gonna suck. We've worked with some other builders that we've come into the design process with them for their models late in the game. And we would look at the plans and be like, oh, okay, so this is great. This is a 5-bedroom home. So, 10 people could potentially be sleeping here. But your dining room's not big enough for a table for 10 people, and your living room's not big enough to put furniture for 10 people. So you've got a whole lot of people sleeping here and nowhere to hang out. So we would have to make them change these floor plans. What's great with TriPoint is they bring us on at such an early phase that we really look at the way these floor plans are and the way the home is going to be lived in. A lot of times, architects don't think about that, as great as they may be. They think of the way the home looks on the outside, and they design it based on the elevations, but they don't think of, okay, that elevation, that window looks so cool in that elevation, but then I'm like, on the inside, I'm like, where are you supposed to put a sofa? Y'all got all windows in this room. There's no way to furnish this room. So it's all, my first thought is, how is this home or this room going to function for the people that live in it? And then I make it pretty after that.
And I'm just curious, I'm sure Latique is too. We know that you are a jet setter and you love traveling. Do you pull any of your inspiration from places you've traveled to?
I try to, yeah. There's never just one place that I find inspiration. It's anywhere, whether Bali or Phoenix or, Dallas or New York. You can always find inspiration from anywhere you are. You just have to look around.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what are some ways that you are able to express your creativity other than through interior design?
I love to draw. I love to sing. So yeah, just different art forms I like to do besides design.
Yeah. So I was hoping the singing was going to be in there.
We were waiting for that one. So, as we all know, that there'll be people that come along that influence us, not only our lives, but also our careers. Who has had the biggest influence on your life, and how has that impacted you in your career?
Who's had the biggest influence in my life? I was definitely inspired to become a designer by Michael Graves. He's a pretty famous architect. He did the very first product collaboration with Target. And again, you two look too young to remember that, but it was about 24 years ago at this point. And it was a product line that had toasters and tea kettles and spatulas and spoons. And it was the first time I thought of somebody out there actually designing things. Before it was just a spoon was just utilitarian. You used it to shovel food in your mouth, and that was that. But seeing these spoons in this collection, I was like, that spoon, you can use it to shovel food in your mouth, but it also makes you happy. It also sparks joy because the design is so cool. So it made me start thinking there are people actually out there, not just designing something for me to shovel food in my mouth, but something to also fill my soul. And so that kind of put me on that direction of thinking about design as a career.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And then going back to thinking about design as your career, I know you started to kind of kick off your career with TriPoint Homes here in Las Vegas, but when you think of TriPoint Homes, and specifically our division in Las Vegas, what design style comes to mind?
When I first came along, it was the land of the Tuscan faux. That was God, it was mid 2015s. That was super popular in the desert and in Vegas. And the show homes that we were doing was the first time TriPoint Vegas, and I can give a lot of this towards Cliff, because Cliff, your president, has always been very innovative and always raring to try something new. I think he'll be fine with me saying this. He's just like me. He's very ADD, and he's like, let's try this, and let's try this, and ooh, this sounds fun, and let's do this new. And so he's always been great about wanting to do the next cool thing. So when I think about the Vegas division in particular, I think of innovation, and trying different things and not wanting to just, a lot of the other builders in the Las Vegas Valley, it's a lot of the same thing. And when you look at TriPoint neighborhoods, they're different, and you guys are always innovating, and you're always wanting to try not the next new thing, but just the next cool thing. You wanting to give people choices, and that's what I've always loved about your division. And I feel like a lot of the other divisions now are definitely stepping up to that too.
Well, you've definitely helped push us in that direction. Like, I'm even thinking the green cabinets at Escala, like, I've never seen green cabinets ever until you did it, and it looked amazing, like absolutely amazing.
It's funny, that was a struggle. That was a fight to get those green cabinets in there. Everybody was like, what? You want to do green cabinet? And of course, now green cabinets are the #1 color cabinet in the world. But it's funny, I go back to Cliff again. He was talking about the green cabinets after they were done, and he's like, you know what? These may not be my thing, but I stand in this house and I watch buyers come in, and it's very polarized. People either love them or they hate them. But one of the things that I've noticed it's caused is people stand in here and they discuss it and they talk about it, and it makes them either like, I want green cabinets in my home, or I don't want green cabinets in my home. And he's like, I noticed it kind of helped them take ownership of the home, because they're like, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to do. So sometimes taking chances in design on models is a good thing, because it cultivates discussion amongst buyers.
Going back to Arroyo's Edge and how we're seeing models evolve, and we're trying to be innovative over here at TriPoint Homes Las Vegas. In the Plan 1, we love how as soon as you're about to walk through that courtyard, you know that this home is going to be different. Would you agree with me?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's such a cool space. I love a front interior courtyard. It goes back to, what were those? They were in Inspirata.
Strata?
Yes, Strata. It kind of reminds me of Strata, that had those really great front courtyards that made what one would think of as a small floor plan, as far as the footprint, feel really big, and every single inch of those lots become very useful. Especially in Vegas, like, keeping a front yard, it's such a waste of real estate. So doing those front courtyards, it really makes the home usable and creates privacy, because no one really wants to sit out in their front yard on a chair and wave at everybody going by. So your front yard just becomes something that's just, again, you've paid for this real estate, but you're not using it. So that's another thing that I love that TriPoint is doing. They're really thinking about the way everyone can maximize their lot and expand their living.
Make it livable. Yeah, I totally agree. So I know you touched on taking a chance, or us as a division, we're always like trying new things and pushing the envelope. So one of the things that we've been doing is experimenting with our secondary bedroom. So wouldn't you say like our podcast room in the Plan 2 is your favorite?
Oh.
Because it's ours.
I think it's very cool, because so many people, a lot of people are working from home now, especially people in the entertainment industry. Every podcast that I do, it's just, from Hillary Clinton to Chelsea Handler, they're doing it from their homes now, So having that dedicated space and giving people that idea of, I don't need that extra WeWork space. I don't need that. I just need, to get a home with enough bedrooms that I can make my work.
Yeah. And then also in Arroyo's Edge, in the Plan 3, what you did in the lounge really sets the rest of the home apart with the elements of the home. Would you say that making a statement in the entryway of a home is the most important?
Yeah, setting the tone in the entryway is super important, because that's the tone that it sets for the whole home. If your entryway is boring, then people are going to assume the rest of your house is boring. And I love an entryway, where you can kind of get a peek of it from outside, because it kind of tells people who you are.
Yeah. A little peek of your personality in there.
Definitely your personality. It shows in the entry. So we live in Las Vegas, so you know outdoor living is extremely important to us, wouldn't you say, Alex?
Oh yeah, we love our pool parties, especially in summer.
So how important do you feel the outdoor plays into the interior of the home?
You know what, it's funny because when I first started working with you guys and the plans that we did, I think it was with Strata, I was like, why are you doing all these outdoor spaces? Vegas is so hot. Who on earth would use those? Because I had really only been to Vegas in the summer. And I didn't realize that there's, probably about 4 months of the year that outside is just miserable, but that's great for your pool. But the rest of the year, Vegas weather is actually wonderful. So all those spaces are important, and it just goes back to really utilizing your real estate. Creating these outdoor spaces allows you to bring the indoors or the outdoors in, and vice versa, and it's just a great use of your money. To have spaces that you get to utilize every square inch of that real estate.
I totally agree.
And then we absolutely love working with you and your team, and we hear so often from people who walk through our models like, I want my home to look exactly like how Bobby designed it. So what would you say would be your favorite part about working with TriPoint Las Vegas? Would it be the innovative and exciting new experimental things?
It is, yes, but I would say my favorite thing is you guys allow us to be creative. A lot of times when we work with residential clients, and this isn't a bad thing, but it's all about them. It's their home. It's like, oh, I have this great credenza from Aunt Gertrude that I want to work in, and it's horrible, and it's not a great design, or oh, I love this painting, and so it's not just about making a home really cohesive. It's about working their style into it, and that's why we love working with TriPoint, because we give you guys our vision, and it's either a absolutely or a, hey, why don't we tweak this a little, and then you let us run with it. And that's my favorite part, is we really get to be completely creative and do exactly what we want to do, and that's what's, I think, really fun about working with TriPoint.
And I love seeing your creative ideas come to life. Like, that's the best thing I think about the process.
And that's very memorable too. That's what everybody always wants to do.
This is true.
Green cabinets.
You remember it. See, we're still talking about it.
Green cabinets, black walls. It's funny, that Escala, that house was definitely the test case for so much, because the green cabinets were a fight. There were literally 3 trips to Las Vegas just about those green cabinets. And then when we painted some walls black, we actually had requests to unpaint them black, and I dug my heels in and I said no. And it's funny, the person who was really against the black walls about a year later called me and said, I just painted some walls in my house black and I love them. And I'm like, see, trust me. So that first model we did was very much a test case on a lot of things that we do now that we're very like, ooh, I don't know about that. No one's gonna want a black wall, but now we realize black walls are sexy.
Yes, that is true. So we want to dive a little bit deeper into the mind of the designer, and we're a little curious, how does interior design influence other aspect of your life, or play into other aspect of your life?
Maybe like places you choose to travel, or even selecting outfits, or even restaurants you want to attend, like with your husband.
Like, is aesthetics like super important?
It is, I'm not a huge wine person. I almost said a huge wino, but I'm like, that's not the right word. But I'll choose a bottle of wine based on the design of the label, because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, if they have great taste for graphic design, then hopefully they have great taste for wine. So yeah, I will choose a lot of things based on how good they're designed. Restaurants, hotels, it all starts with what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And then, like we said earlier, design is always ever changing and it's evolving. Although we do start to see more and more design come back into style. So if you were to choose to live in a decade solely based on design, what decade would you choose?
Probably like the 50s.
50s.
Yeah, mid-century modern. Like early Eames and Herman Miller and Knoll, like very clean mid-century modern lines.
I would say I'm more mid-century as well.
What
about you?
Decide.
Oh yeah, still trying to decide. Okay.
I think I'm more today. I just love how everything is slowly like coming back. So you're being pulled, like different designs from different eras are being pulled into today. I think that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
So, in all the design projects you've worked on so far, what has been the most impactful for you? Or most rewarding?
Well, definitely my design work on Queer Eye I feel is the most rewarding because I'm getting to help people, and I'm using design to really help change their lives. Working on model homes and homes for residential clients, that's fun as well. But those are people that have the money to make the home that they want, but the people that I get to help on Queer Eye, it's not something that they would necessarily ever have the chance to do. So I definitely think that's the most rewarding, is the design work that I get to do on Queer Eye.
Can I tell you which one has been like the most inspirational one for me?
Definitely.
It's actually when you renovated your parents' home. Like, I watched the clip and your dad getting emotional. I swear I cried. I actually started tearing.
That was a lot of fun to be able to redo my childhood home.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely inspirational. I would love to do something like that one day.
Yes, that's awesome. And then before we finish, would you mind telling us where our listeners can learn more about the newest items that you are loving?
I have an editorial website where we talk about my design projects and Queer Eye and social issues, and it's all at bobbyberk.com, and that's BERK.
Awesome.
Well, Bobby, thank you so much for your time and joining us on the Get On Point podcast.
And for designing our beautiful new podcast room at Arroyo's Edge. We're so excited.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
of
we're
course.
looking forward, of course, to working with you and your team.
Thank you, you too. Thank you guys. Mwah. Bye.